So I kinda bombed my first game jam, and it was great. Let me tell you about it.
Do you like jam?
Jam.
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 Jam. Jam. Jam.
Jam.
Jam. Good.
Game Off. Game Off is an annual game jam challenging individuals and teams to build a game during the month of November. This year's Game Off theme is Secrets.
When my friends suggested doing a game jam together in October, I was the one who suggested this particular jam, thinking that a month would provide us ample time to work. Retrospectively, it might have been more successful if we had done a shorter weekend-length jam, but who's to say? The theme was Secrets, which wasn't that hard to think of ideas for, but was more difficult to figure out how the mechanics would fit into that theme. Ultimately, though, we ended up coming up with a totally original, never-before-seen concept. Indie game devs try not to make a survival horror game challenge difficulty impossible. Regardless, I'm still super happy with the assets that I was able to develop over just the first week. Unfortunately, life often gets in the way, and when my friend got busy partway through and had to step away, I looked into the deep end of the programming pool, and knowing that I would not be able to pick up where my much more programmatically inclined friend had left off, but also not wanting to abandon the jam, I pulled up my big brave pants and dove into something objectively less impressive in almost every way. And so, it is with equal pride and cringe that I present an obvious and certain signal. At the time I started the jam, I had barely touched Godot as a whole, and wasn't much more experienced with programming before that, so I swallowed my pride and artistic vision and took the opportunity to really focus on programming something from the ground up for the first time. Needless to say, it was rough. What I ended up with was clunky, unintuitive, hard to look at, and mechanically obtuse. It's not pretty, but it works. Or it did when I submitted it a month ago. This is why I'm an artist. A PNG doesn't inexplicably crash if I stop looking at it for a week or two. But that said, I still made it. I set out to make a game about secrets in a month, and I made it through to the end, and that's something I'm stupid proud of. Plus, I learned a hell of a lot more about GD script in those 3 weeks toiling in the code mines than I ever had before. I put my mind to producing something that people can, and did, play. Some people even liked it. Most people kinda didn't, but at the time of writing, over 30 people have tried it, and it placed
270th out of 500.
And that's not last. That is a small something that I can take pride in. It may not be Widefort numbers, but it also feels a lot more rewarding for how personally driven an obvious and certain signal ended up being. And speaking of both Widefort and intensely personal projects, I have a bittersweet announcement. On January 30th, that will be the final time that a wide gamer ping will sound, as I'm afraid that I must close the Team Fort 2 Pro Gamer Zone community server. I opened it during the bot crisis to have a place to both playtest my own maps, but also to enjoy an incredibly nostalgic game without getting botted into the dirt. Now, with my own development time being focused more on games that I make, and TF2 being about as good as it ever was, the wide fields haven't had need in a while, and the server is usually dead. Widefort and the Pro Gamer Zone have served their purpose well, and it is their time to rest, honored and unforgotten. But the Widefort saga is not the server alone. Widefort was always more than just a map. It was a story, and this story does have an end. So, on January 30th, the day of Widefall, when the Pro Gamer Zone closes its gates, everything will end when a ghost buys a Sandwick. Game Off is an annual game jam challenging individuals and teams to build a game during the month of November. Use whatever programming languages, game engines, or libraries you like. This year's Game Off theme is Secrets.